how well do you remember your times tables?
See, that's an interesting question because there's some multiplications that I'm just like doing manually, but there are some that are just like memorized. Like there's some where like I don't know that times tables, but if I take it to the nearest 10 and then add, like if people are like, what is 12 times 6? I'll do 10 times 6 and 2 times 6 and add it.
Do you know the 9 trick?
What's the 9 trick?
Oh, the 9
it's
trick
just
is
all
my
the
favorite.
Numbers reversed?
No. You got 10 fingers, right? And you're trying to multiply by 9.
Yeah.
So, like, if I want to do 9 times 5, I put down my fifth finger, and there's 8 on this 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Spotify listeners, we both have our hands up like a couple of balloons.
Yeah. And I've got 7 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other, so
that
it's
makes
really difficult to figure out.
Do you know the 3 trick, Kyle?
The 3 trick? No.
If you add whatever number you're looking at, if you add if you add the digits together and get a number divisible by 3, then the whole number is divisible by 3.
Wow, we're learning so much on this episode and it hasn't even started yet.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Kyle Imperator and Emily Moyers take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Emily Moyers.
And I'm Kyle Imperator, and if you felt primed by that primer and prime numbers, well then you're going to love today's episode, because Emily, your word today is logarithmotechny. Logarithmotechny. Logarithmotechny.
I love this. Wow. Okay. So, I mean, I like a word where I feel like I can get a leg up on breaking it down here. Because away I'm seeing logarithm at the front. Just the full word logarithm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's in there.
Does Emily know what logarithm means? It's a further question.
I will ask that at some point. So.
Yeah. So on our podcast, often when we see words with log in the front, it's logos, meaning words. But I think there's a different, maybe logic is the root here. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Let me come back to that because I don't.
Come back.
Yeah. The back half is otechny, which is my Irish grandparents. Otechny. The otechnies.
To you. I went on my gaming computer today.
Yeah, they invented the N64.
It's running 60 frames per second.
I'm not sure I know what techni. I guess maybe it means like something to do with like working or machine. Am I in the right realm at all?
You're on the edge of that realm.
Okay.
But not on the right path, unfortunately.
So let me ask some questions about this word as well. It must be a noun.
It is a noun, yep.
And I'm assuming it's an uncountable noun. It's like a concept? Or can you have logarithmotechnies?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's not used all that much, so I guess you could, but it hasn't been used in that way.
Is this like something that you do? Is it like a process?
Yeah-ish, yeah.
Okay. Is it...
I mean, it's a concept, right?
Sure. Does it just mean... So logarithm, I'm thinking like formulas, like math. Is it literally just like mathematics? Logarithmotechny? Is it just like doing math?
Kind of, but it's more... There's more... It's more different than that.
It's more different. Can I get a hint?
Yes. Emily, your hint is mastery.
Interesting. That throws me for a loop a little bit. Logarithmotechny. And the hint is mastery. Okay. Oh, is this like solving a puzzle? Like proving a theorem?
You're getting further from the correct
then I
answer.
may need to
You're thinking too far into it.
I may need to throw in the towel.
Emily, are you you had all the pieces there.
Yeah.
You had all the pieces. But it's as simple as logarithmotechny is the art of calculating or making logarithms.
Oh. We're going to talk about what logarithms are, right?
Of course we are. Why would I leave everybody hanging?
I did so good at math in high school. No, I did. And consequently, I didn't have to do any math in college. So it's been some time.
Fair. Emily, I can't believe that I have so much to say. I had to cut so much from this episode, and that stuns me. As someone who did terrible in math, I was like, this is going to be boring, and it's not.
Great.
Let's start with the suffix techny.
Yeah.
Right? Crazy suffix, right? So we briefly talked about its origin, which is the ancient Greek techne, meaning simultaneously craft, skill, trade, or art, back in episode 24 on the word eurythmic, where we discussed how this linguistic connection demonstrated the ancient Greeks' perception of art as being a practical application of one's craft. Right?
Sure.
They were like, oh, if you're very good at something practically, that's art, right?
Sure. I can see that logic.
So related words to this root, techne, include the word technical, right? Which originally meant of or relating to the arts or sciences, but also means having knowledge of or expertise in a particular art or science or other subject. There's also technique, right?
Yeah.
Originally the formal or practical aspect of any art, occupation, or field, but now a method of achieving something, especially one requiring some skill or knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what's the big one, Emily?
Technology.
Technology originally was used to describe a discourse or treatise on an art or arts. So a book about the arts was called a technology.
Whoa.
From logos, right?
Oh, technology.
Logi, yeah.
Wow.
So the ancient Greek logos both meant that which is said. So that could mean like a speech or something written down that could be spoken, right?
Sure.
But it also meant that which is thought. So that could also mean like I thought of something and wrote it down, but it could also mean like calculations or plans or schemes, right? But of course, the word technology today now refers to the study of the mechanical arts and applied sciences.
Yeah, which I feel like that is sort of the same with technical. Because, like, you could use technical to mean, like, I feel like I've heard it used to mean either, like, relating to, like, engineering or, like, calculations and things, but also just to mean, like, complicated or practical. I guess. I think when you're saying, like technically speaking, though, you're not talking about mechanics there. No.
You're talking about the original meaning of technical, meaning the formal practical aspect of an art, right?
Yeah. That's super interesting.
But now, Emily, I'm sorry to have to formally, technically ask you, what are logarithms?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm conflating it with other math things, but when you first said logarithms, I was thinking about, like, you got your line graph in front of you, and there's a line that's swooping through it, and that is a logarithm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the graphical representation
It's like
of
a formula.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically right.
Like a way of describing the way a thing moves? Way of calculating the way a thing moves?
No.
Cool.
No. Well, I mean, you can use it for a lot of different things.
Sure.
So logarithms are super versatile. We're going to get into all of that.
Okay.
But in the most basic terminology, a logarithm is the inverse of an exponent.
Oh, okay. This is coming back to me a little bit.
So if we have the number 2 to the power of 3, right? So that's 2 cubed. The exponent here is the 3, the little superscript 3. Yeah. It's telling us to multiply the base 2 by itself 3 times, right? So that's 2 times 2 times 2, which is
8. That one I had memorized.
That one that you had memorized. That's the times table you had good. Yeah. So if we instead have our final number 8 and knew that Some exponent was used to modify the base number 2, but we don't know what the exponent was. A logarithm could be used to find what that exponent was. So the solution for log 8 to the base 2, which is a log subscript 2, regular script 8, what would the answer for that be?
It would be 3, but I'm not visualizing this anymore.
So basically, log 2, 8 is asking what exponent will get 2 to the answer 8.
Got you. Okay.
So it's to find an exponent.
I'm sure that I learned this, but I don't remember.
So it's useful. It's useful in math because, like with exponents, it's like, okay, if I'm taking this number and increasing it exponentially, these are all my options, right? But like in practical math, you're not starting with the base number. You're starting with some crazy number and being like, all right, well, how did we get here?
Well, and this is...
And logs answer that
right.
for us.
And this is not like square rooting. You're not trying to find the base number. You're trying to find what was done to the base number, which is crazy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So the immediate practical use of logarithms is that they simplify complex calculations by substituting addition and subtraction for multiplication and division.
That makes
one
it
of the
simpler.
Examples. So, well, yeah, because
you don't have to add it a million times. You can just multiply it.
No. They're substituting addition and subtraction for multiplication and division.
Good. Yeah.
So the prime example here is if you have x times y and you're taking the log of that product, it's equal to the log of x plus the log of y.
Oh.
So there's lots of ways that we can come up with new answers here by addition instead of multiplication, right? And so the obverse works for... It's awesome. It's so cool.
It is cool, but this was where I got lost. So I should say I did really good in math in like early algebra, and then I did really good in calculus, but there was a span in the middle of doing like pre-calc and trig that I did terrible because I couldn't visualize it anymore. Once I couldn't visualize what the math meant practically, or I couldn't like visualize the numbers building on each other, I couldn't do it anymore. And we're at that point right now.
That's fair. We're not going to talk much more math here.
Good.
It's more history from now. There's a little bit of visualization, but it's mostly history from here on out. Okay. So the man credited with discovering this magical method was Scottish mathematician John Napier, 8th Laird of Markiston, and he was later nicknamed Marvelous Merkiston.
Love it. Was he also a magician in his spare time?
Emily, yep, you got it. He was super marvelous, and I wish we had more time to talk about it, but he was notoriously known to be a wizard. Like, born to a family of wizards, his uncle is described as a notorious necromancer, and there's so much about his being a wizard, and it's crazy.
How is that possible?
Since he was always locked away doing mathematical calculations, his neighbors accused him of studying the dark arts and being in league with the devil.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It didn't help that he kept a pet black cockerel, which is a classic symbol of witchcraft. And everyone was like, oh, it's his familiar. Ooh.
Sure.
And it was said to be carried by the mysterious Napier while dressed in his dark cowl as he paced his land deep in thought.
Oh, so he was a warlock for sure.
He was a warlock. But that's as much as tip of the iceberg that we'll touch on the Marvelous Merkiston for now.
I mean, that must
Maybe
mean that the rest of this is
it.
fantastically interesting. If the bit you had to cut was the family of wizards.
Well, it at least wasn't math related, the family of wizards, so... But anyways, in 1614, Napier writes in the preface for his Mirifici Logarithmorum Canonis Descriptio, or Description of the Wonderful Canon of Logarithms, translated here from the Latin, since nothing is more tedious, fellow mathematicians, in the practice of the mathematical arts than the great delays suffered in the tedium of lengthy multiplications and divisions, the finding of ratios, and in the extraction of square and cube roots, finally, I have found an amazing way of shortening the proceedings.
And that was...
He was doing us all a favor.
And that was logs?
That was logs.
Okay.
That was logs. The log lady from Twin Peaks exists because of this man. So he describes how he came across logs by comparing a particle moving across two lines. Follow with me as best as you can. If you can't, it doesn't matter.
This might help me.
To say that this is what he thought. Yeah. So there's one line of infinite length and one of a fixed length, right?
Okay.
The particle on the infinite line travels at a constant speed, right?
Okay.
So there's points spaced evenly apart. But on the fixed line, the particle starts at the same speed, but then continuously drops speed proportionate to the distance left on the line.
Okay.
So
exponentially
as it
slower.
goes along the line, exponentially smaller and smaller pieces of the line get pointed off in comparison to the infinite line that is equal points on the line as it goes, right?
Sure. I think, yeah.
It's all kind of mathy, but all you need to know is that the proportional relationship here between the two lines represents logarithms.
Right. So like in theory, the one point would reach the end of the fixed line at the same percentage speed that the other point is reaching the end of the infinite line, because the one on the fixed line is slowing down.
Yes.
Which
it never will reach the end of the fixed line.
Because it's like if you take a half step of a half step of a half step, you'll never reach the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. The limit does not exist.
Exactly. The limit does not exist. You got it. End the episode.
Yeah.
So it's for this reason that we believe that Napier coined the term logarithmus from ancient Greek arithmos, meaning number.
Like arithmetic.
Like arithmetic, exactly. And the aforementioned logos, either from the sense of a calculation, right, that which is thought, which we discussed earlier, or from a separate mathematical sense of logos, meaning ratio. It was just used in ancient Greek math to mean ratio.
Okay.
But we don't know. He didn't explain that.
Sure. But it's all of a piece.
It's all of a piece, yeah. Napier's Logarithmotechny here is evident, as his Descriptio contains over 90 pages of tables.
Yikes.
Of about 5,400 logarithmic calculations, which took him over 20 years to complete. And he died 3 years after its publication.
I mean, better than dying 3 years before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be one of those. Unsolved.
But so like this was useful because they didn't have calculators back then, right? So if they wanted to find the answer, he just did all the answers. All the answers were done and they could just check his chart.
And like gave them a tool for doing it quicker themselves.
Exactly. By addition and subtraction instead of multiplication. So for the sake of accuracy, this is what he claims, all of Napier's logarithms are written in the base 10 million.
Just to simplify things.
It's just to simplify things. 10 million. It's the easiest number.
I think we've all agreed it's the roundest, easiest number.
It's the roundest, easiest number.
You know, in all the examples, when you want to illustrate a point, you say, well, let's take a number and say 10 million.
Yeah, between 1 and 10 million. But the reason why he picked 10 million is because he wanted to show he wanted to be very specific, right? But decimal fractions had yet to be widely adopted in Europe.
Sure. So you could take it out to many places, because the places as in digits, because you were starting from 10 million.
Exactly. To explain his process in creating the tables, Napier wrote a follow-up called Mirifici Logarithmorum Canonis Constructio, meaning the construction of the wonderful canon of logarithms, which he was reluctant to publish at first because he was like, well, let's see what everybody says about the first book.
They already think I'm a wizard. This is not going to help.
Exactly. Yeah. But then he died, so his son just went and published it anyway.
That's fair. Ultimate excuse. Can't come after me. I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly. But in the book, Napier champions decimal fractions. He actually says, man, I wish we could have had decimal fractions. It would have made my job a lot easier.
We just put a dot in the middle of this and keep going.
Well, so he improves on the notation system created by his contemporary Simon Stevin.
Simon Stephen.
A Dutch name. His name is Simon Stephen, but it's Dutch, so it's not. But that guy came up with fractions in number notation, but
with like number line number. Like written out like a fraction?
No. He came up with decimal fractions, but without the decimal point. He was like a long number with an added fraction to it. And Napier was like, let's use this dot, and that'll represent that there's a fraction here.
Sure.
Although the decimal as used in a fraction had been used by a smattering of other scholars previous to him, but he didn't know about it. So
sure.
Let's give it to him. He did it. Thanks, Napier. But on its release, Descriptio took the scientific world by storm, Emily.
Yeah.
Napier's peer, Henry Briggs, was an almost immediate adopter of both Napier's decimal fractions and of logarithms, and published an addendum to Napier's Constructio. In it, it was a description of what he called another and better kind of logarithms, and those logarithms would be the easier to swallow base 10 logarithms, which we today call common logarithms and are used in a lot of, it's the logarithms that we used in school.
This is ringing a bell a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Briggs was also the first to translate the Latin logarithmus to English, writing in a 1616 letter, Napier, Lord of Markenston, hath set my head and hands a work with his new and admirable logarithms.
Wow, admirable.
Admirable.
Did he say admiral?
Admirable.
Oh, okay.
Logarithms also influenced German astronomer Johannes Kepler's discovery of his third law of planetary motion. Though he conspicuously claims the data suddenly appeared in his head as a happy calamity a few years after reading Descriptio.
It just came to me. An original idea by me.
I think he was like maybe feeling guilty about saying that stuff because Kepler would dedicate his next book to Napier and continued to improve and expand upon the technique, publishing his own tables in his 1624 Cilias Logarithmorum and separate tables for calculating planetary positions in his 1627 Rudolphine tablets.
Okay.
So he wrote a lot of logarithmic tables, Kepler.
Yeah. I guess, if you have to write them all out by hand, we need them all written out. Somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. In 1688, an ardent supporter of Kepler's theories, mathematician Nicholas Mercator, published his treatise Logarithmotechny, which is probably the origin of today's word. It's probably where we get it from, the title of that book.
Why do I know Mercator? Is that the map guy?
It's a different guy.
Oh, that's annoying.
It's a different guy. This Mercator was known for something called the Mercator series, which is just a different logarithm formula.
Okay.
That gives us different logarithms.
All right.
Yeah, all right. So while the OED cites the English Logarithmotechny as being confined to dictionaries, its use isn't that limited. There's plenty of uses of logarithm. I mean, not plenty. There's a non-zero number of uses of logarithmotechny in natural English language.
Okay.
An early example is from the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society, comes from the early 1700s, between 1700 and 1720. And in this example, they provide examples of a new logarithmic series, which can be expanded upon, writing, therefore, from hence it appears very plain that the logarithmotechny now explained is very easy and genuine, and so general that by these two ways innumerable series may be found exhibiting the logarithm of any number proposed.
It sounds like an infomercial advertising Logarithmotechny.
Logarithms.
Easy. The kids can do it.
I woke up yesterday and saw my husband doing Logarithmotechny.
Just $14.99, folks.
Just the log of 14 in base 99.
How much is that? We don't know.
You'll have to find out. Buy a product. So for 4 centuries, Emily, logarithmic tables continued to be published for ease of calculation, but their popularity waned with the technological invention of mechanical calculators, right?
Mechanical, like an abacus?
Well, Yeah, well, with updates to the abacus. But yes.
Abacus in style.
Ironically, or perhaps aptly, I don't know, you can decide, Napier himself devised two different early computing devices. One was called the promptuary or card abacus, and the other was a device called Napier's bones.
That wasn't a device, Kyle. They took his skeleton.
Took a skeleton and numbers were written on it. But those two devices used respectively numbered strips and numbered rods to calculate multiplications in a technique that Napier coins as rhabdology, from the ancient Greek rubdos, meaning rod, wand, or stick.
Crazy.
And it's like you take the sticks and the strips have like numbers written on all sides, and you like line up. It's like basically you cut up a times table and put it in different ways to get different answers.
Sure, that's fun. You know, I like that.
Yeah, it is fun.
That feels like one of those like education toys.
Speaking of education toys, he also developed a technique that he called location arithmetic as performed on a chessboard. We now refer to it as his chessboard calculator or chessboard computer, and it's an early example of binary arithmetic.
Like early computers.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
I like saying it as like the title of the musical number as performed on a chessboard.
As performed.
That's the show that they're billing.
What's the song like, Emily? What's the title song?
It's like one of these like rhythm bands. So it's all the like clacking of the chess pieces on the board, and it's there's like a line of people. Yeah, basically, it's like Blue Man Group, and they've all got it's like a bunch of people with chessboards.
Good. Now, when polymath Charles Babbage released his logarithmic tables in 1827, they were widely considered to be the most accurate of its kind. They're like the defining logarithmic tables.
And Babbage was like
the
early computer, one of the big early computer.
Wait for it.
I'm sorry.
Wait for it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You got it. You're right there, Emily. Babbage's work on these logarithmic tables convinced him that such calculations could best be done by mechanical means. He was like, nope, this is not for people. We need machines to do this. And so that was the impetus for him to begin designing what he called a difference engine, which would be the design for the first automatic mechanical computer.
Difference engine sounds so much more modern. It's like a difference engine sounds like it does something even crazier.
Yeah, even
than
grander.
Just math.
Yeah. He completed a prototype of it, but he was like paid by the British government to make like a real one. He could never figure it out. Others did end up making versions of it, and most of them were made solely for printing logarithmic tables. One of them, a man named Per George Schutz, created. It was the size of a piano, and it was literally just churning out logarithmic tables day and night.
And the computers are making just reference tables for mathematicians to use in other work.
Yeah, they're not like computers yet. They're just automatic calculators. But yes, they're just churning out like tables for mathematical reference.
Wow,
yes.
Crazy.
We haven't gotten to the step where it's like, oh, let's just let it do our math for me, right? But Babbage wouldn't give up, right? And so instead of finishing his difference engine, he eventually shifted gears to the development of his analytical engine, which is the earliest design for a mechanical computer and inspired many others to take up the mantle, such as Ada Lovelace, who, developed, one of the earliest computers and all that stuff,
That's awesome.
But as evidence of the changing times, an 1847 volume of the Civil Engineer and Architects Journal claims, since the days of Napier and Briggs, logarithmotechny, in a practical point of view, has received but little improvement, while logarithmic formulae have been cultivated with great success and advantageously employed to abridge many analytical inquiries in different parts of mathematics. They were just like, nah, we'll use the formulas instead. We don't need the tables.
Yeah. So they were like suggesting doing it in theoretical terms where like you don't
Yeah.
you don't necessarily take it all the way to numbers, you just leave the variables in.
I think it might be more a sign of like mechanical calculators were helping them do the math without needing the table for it, you know?
Right.
But anyway, Emily, today logarithms are important functions for many areas of study, including but not limited to musical intervals, fractals, psychology, and probability and number theory. A great known example to the public is in natural science, and it's the Richter scale, which is a logarithmic scale that calculates the magnitude of earthquakes by figuring out exponents and all that stuff.
Exponents and all that stuff. Wow.
And all that stuff. And though his original calculations were a bit clunky and his tables are no longer of use, Napier has not been forgotten. For one, the logarithmic unit, the Napier, has his name, Neper. Don't ask me what it represents, but it's a Napier.
But it's there.
And Napier's Logarithmotechny is basically the reason that we today in modern math and science use decimal fractions, calculators, and computers.
Wow.
Right? They're the impetus for all of those things. In 1958, David W. Waters wrote of Napier's Descriptio in his book on English navigation. Probably no work has ever influenced science as a whole, and mathematics in particular, so profoundly as this modest little book. It opened the way for the abolition, once and for all, of the infinitely laborious, nay, nightmarish processes of long division and multiplication, of finding the power and the root of numbers.
Amazing.
Amazing. Now, Emily, it's time to put your technical know-how to the test by using Logarithmotechny in a sentence.
Yep. So it just means doing logarithms.
It means the art of crafting logarithms. So it's not like I'm doing Logarithmotechny. It's like his work was Logarithmotechny, right?
Okay. So I, myself, being a very visual learner, struggle with Logarithmotechny, but I am grateful that many other people have understood it better and allowed for all of these technical and technological advances.
Beautiful. Perfect, Emily. Napier would be proud. He wouldn't turn you into a frog.
Oh, wow. Thank goodness.
Ready for a game now?
So ready.
Emily, your game is called Technically Speaking. So the techny suffix is pretty rare, and it battles for popularity with the German-influenced Technics ending. So for this game, I will describe to you some types of crafts or arts that have one or both of these endings, and you'll have to give me the answer.
Aye.
Okay? Should be easy, most of them.
Okay.
Most often used as an adjective for education institutions, this noun more generally refers to the science of the mechanic arts.
Oh, interesting. I'm assuming it's polytechnics?
You got it. Polytechnics,
wow.
Emily.
But poly just means many, right? Oh, I guess many techniques, many crafts?
Yeah, I guess it's like combining them all together.
Sure.
I didn't actually look up the etymology of that. Will we care? Actually, I don't think they said anything about that in the etymology, so that's not going to help. I did look at the etymology. Okay, next one. Originally referring to the manufacture of gunpowder for military purposes and the use of fire in chemistry and metallurgy, this word first narrowed to refer to the art of fireworks and then broadened to mean any impressive or dazzling display.
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah, pyrotechnics can also be pyrotechny.
Oh, I haven't heard that. That's good.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, oh, it's not used like that anymore, but like there are examples of it from like within the past 30 years.
Wow,
so
that's fun.
Yeah. Okay, last one, and then there's a bonus if you're a good little girl.
I didn't like that.
I was going to say good little boy, but
honestly would have preferred you said that.
All right. All right, last one, and then there's a bonus if you're a good little boy. Okay. This last scientific art refers to the practice of handling, breeding, and keeping animals. Engineering degrees in this field are most popular in South America and the Iberian Peninsula.
Oh.
For no reason in particular.
And it ends in technics or techny?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I have no idea. Zootechnics? Wow,
you got it, Emily.
Wow.
Yep. Zootechnics or zootechny.
I mean, that makes sense linguistically.
Yeah.
Because zoo just means animals.
Well, Emily, you're 3 for 3. I think you've earned your pudding.
I'll take it.
So here's your bonus. German scholar Kaspar Peutzer coined this term, a possible inspiration for Napier's term, in 1553, referring to divination by passing from numbers to letters, or vice versa.
Does it involve both the numbers and letters in the word?
Yes, and it does not use techny.
But it used technics?
No, it doesn't use the tech.
Oh, it's not related to the other questions. Okay.
Yes.
Is it alphanumerology?
No. Divination by passing from numbers to letters or vice versa. Can you remember from past episodes what the divination ending is?
Nancy?
And this might have inspired Napier's term.
Oh, logarithmancy?
Yep, logarithmancy.
Wow, that's fun.
He came up with that word about 70 years before Napier's logarithm. Wow. Like some people said, he might have gotten from there because both of them were mathematicians and both of them were wizards.
So they must have all known each other.
Right? But it's more likely that Peutzer's term is referring to numbers and letters, whereas Napier's term is referring to like the calculations of numbers, right?
Yeah.
The ratios of numbers.
Yeah. Great.
That's everything.
Really fun stuff, Kyle. I like digging into math. I do like math things, even though they're sometimes just out of my grasp. But the historical stuff
very abstract.
It is. It's very abstract. But the historical stuff is interesting, and certainly the early computer stuff is always fun to dig into. Everybody, if you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, you can remember that you can watch us on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips, and you can find Butter No Parsnips on other social media, on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you liked today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
And if you really liked today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more gets you exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Kyle Imperator.
And I've been Emily Moyers, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
All right, Emily. The wizard's out of the bag. What can I say?
Yeah.
You screamed and hemmed and hawed that I didn't divulge more of the secrets of John Napier.
I need to know more.
Wizard extraordinaire. So listen, I got it for you, back by popular demand. Let me tell you some more about John Napier before I get vaporized by the Napierites, as I assume his secret conclave.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that Napier is born to a family of wizards.
You did.
I did mention that, yeah.
That's a crazy fact that you just sort of blazed on by.
Glossed over. Here's that family for you. His father, Sir Archibald, great name for a wizard, like classic wizard name,
That's
right?
It. Archibald the Wise.
Archibald was a wizard who successfully predicted when Mary, who was at that point former Queen of Scotland, would leave the castle where she was imprisoned. And I guess he put it as leave, but she escaped the castle, and he was right. Like, he was like, oh, she'll escape by the 5th of this month, and she escaped on the 2nd.
Wow.
So
okay.
Maybe he handed her a key or a file or something.
She'll escape by the 5th, and I know this because I let her out.
Yeah. Napier's uncle, meanwhile, Adam Bothwell, who's the Bishop of Orkney. It sounds like
less
Star Wars Deep
names.
Lore characters. He was, quote unquote, a notorious necromancer. And so one newspaper said that that's why Napier inherited, quote, a double inclination towards the magic arts, because from his father and from his uncle.
He was necromancy? Because that's different.
Yeah, they didn't say anything more about that. Just said necromancy.
That feels, it's like there's a wide valley in between vague predictions of future events and bringing back the dead.
Basically the same thing to Scottish people, you know? Speaking of bringing back the dead, Napier's nephew, Richard, was an astrologer who was known as the Warlock of Oxford and was said to cure his sick parishioners through the powers of his magical eye-catching rings. Don't know what that means.
Like eye-catching in this case, meaning it snatched people's eyes.
Yeah, it snatched people's eyes and used that to power the cure.
The magic,
you know? Yeah, the magic cure.
It's necromancy.
It all goes back to necromancy. It's necromancy all the way down. Yeah. Napier himself was a theologian and once used mathematical analysis to try to predict the date of the apocalypse, which
popular endeavor.
He guessed it was either 1688 or 1700. Was he correct? We'll never know. Yeah. I mentioned that Napier was known to have a familiar, which was a black cockerel, but he also carried around a black spider in a small box, like he traveled with this spider.
You didn't lead with that.
I didn't lead with that because I don't know much more about the spider other than he had.
A pet rooster is weird enough, but a pet spider that you carry with you.
No.
It's like, you know how like Disney characters always have two animal sidekicks that like bicker on the sidelines in between scenes? That was this guy's, but they're the most macabre animal sidekicks. Yeah,
it's like the pug and the hummingbird.
Yeah, or the
raccoon and the hummingbird.
Yes, the pug is a third. There were three animals.
Sidekick, yeah. As for his rooster sidekick, his familiar, according to one account, in order to ferret out a thieving servant on his property, he gathered his staff in a darkened room and instructed each of them to pet the cockerel, telling them that it would only crow if the thief petted it. And then they didn't know that he had covered the bird in black soot. And so he would check all their hands to see which servant was too scared to pet the bird, and that was the one who stole.
Cunning.
There's other reasons why people thought him to be a sorcerer. One of them is that at one point he was so frustrated that pigeons were eating all of his grains that he laced the grains with alcohol and then ran out and caught the pigeons when they were too drunk to fly.
That's what you do for what is it? There's some sort of like
bears,
I feel like
an
insect trap or some sort of like animal trap you can make at home where you just get them drunk.
Kyle on a Tuesday night, am I right?
Yeah, when he's running wild in his backyard and I'm trying to get him to come in.
Yeah.
Apply him with alcohol.
Alcohol soaked lasagna gets me in. Sleeping right away. A contract was once made out between Napier and the knight Robert Logan of Restalrig, and the contract was for Napier to use magic to search Logan's estate named Fastcastle, which is crazy, for treasure that was supposedly buried there. And the knight said that Napier should do his utmost diligence to search and seek out, and by all craft and engine to find out the same, and by the grace of God either find out the same or make it sure that no such thing has been there.
I need to know, man.
Is there treasure here?
It's keeping me up.
Yeah. We never found the treasure. BT dubs. They dug up his estate in the 80s. Not there. The Wikipedia article about him says that they exhumed the knight's corpse and put it on trial at one point. I guess to be like, was there treasure there or not? I don't know.
We need to question the witness. Get that necromancer guy.
Get that necromancer. Where was Uncle Bothwell when you needed him?
Uncle Both, wake this guy up.
Bob. But anyway, that is Wizardry 101 for everybody at home.
Thank goodness.
All hail Napier, and I'm sure his uncle will bring him back to life at some point.
Thank you, Kyle.
Good night, everyone. Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Emily Moyers, and myself, Kyle Imperator. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.